for what I half-jokingly dubbed my second useless master's. I wanted to write about global human rights issues, and this hospital project was a story worth pursuing. "Keep me posted," I said. And so he did, emailing every few months with snippets of information. His emails were laden with medical jargon, and slightly odd. The language was indecipherable to me. But I was still interested in the story, so I responded enthusiastically. In December 2009, the emails began picking up in frequency. By late January, they had blossomed into daily, almost hourly, telephone calls. Apparently, he too had felt a connection during our initial call. He confessed to visiting my website and watching various television interviews I'd done. "You looked great in that green dress," he said, referring to my appearance on a morning TV show. He waxed poetic on my sternal notch, the indentation in the middle of the clavicle. We spoke deeply, honestly. The commander, as I took to calling him, was 58, a former Navy SEAL, divorced a few years earlier. His 2 children, then 5 and 12, lived on the West Coast with his ex-wife. It hadn't been an amicable split, but he spoke to his kids often and visited frequently. I told him about my ambivalence toward relationships, how they were really not my area of expertise. I'd just emerged from a brief and disappointing dalliance with a guy I'd known at summer camp. I'd been trying so hard to find a good man, I hadn't even cared that he was a Wall Street Republican who played fantasy football. "I'm not going to learn anything or grow spiritually from another failed romance," I told the commander. "I've paid my dues. It's time for something good." "I understand," he said. "I've suffered enough too." The demise of his marriage had been excruciating, which was why he'd fled LA. "I couldn't stand the breakup of my family," he told me. "I couldn't bear to live in the city of my failure. The Navy saved me." Moving across the country from your adored young children didn't seem like Father Knows Best behavior to me. But I don't have kids and have not endured a divorce. We're all so fragile in our own unique ways. Anyway, it seemed like a good sign that his ex-wife was open to him spending so much time with his kids. And I was impressed that he was so loyal to the country. Such passion, such dedication. He didn't care about money. He cared about people. One of the main issues in his marriage, in fact, had been that he wasn't earning enough to placate his ex. She sounded like such a diva. Both she and the other doctors in his office, he was a partner there, had pressured him to refuse Medicaid patients. But he wouldn't. "I'm not going to turn people away just because they can't afford it," he said. On our first date, in early February 2010, he took me to the Four Seasons in Manhattan. "Somewhere celebratory," as he'd put it. I wore a gray silk dress and thigh-high black suede boots. He'd just come from addressing the United Nations and was in navy whites. We embraced as if he were returning from Iwo Jima. The bartender was so moved that he plied us with free drinks. Red wine for me, vodka for him. As a present, the commander brought me a white navy cap. A cover, in military parlance. I slipped it on, feeling like Deborah Winger in An Officer and a Gentleman. Granted, he was no Richard Gere. I'd only seen a few photos of him online, and most were from a distance. In person, he looked a decade younger. But his nose was beakish, and he had an overbite and a mouthful of cap teeth. His shoulders hunched forward when he walked, as if he were mid-bow. He suffered from asthma and squirted nasal spray in public. But his smile was bright and wide, and his hair, though slightly receding, was a beautiful black and silver. He had not a centimeter of fat on his body, and he was entranced with me. Later, over seared tuna and Pinot Noir, he confessed that the great trauma of his life was not becoming a brain surgeon, his true calling.